Greetings and peace, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Tonight, I have the honor and privilege of being joined by my brother of the Fatimiyya, Brother Stephen Beyer, who returns for part four in this series of dialogues and conversations that we've been having. Part three that I did with Brother Stephen on the military industrial complex, so well received that it's an honor for us to have him back for part four to talk about the medical industrial complex. And he will describe his experiences with the medical system and also finding different forms of treatment which have brought healing and peace into his life. And I'm thankful that he's here and we can all benefit from the knowledge and wisdom that he will impart on us. So without further ado, I will give the greeting of Nur Alaikum of the Fatimiyya to our brother Stephen Bayer. Thank you for being here.
Nur alaikum. Thank you so much. It's great to be with you. And the really great news is that I've made real progress with managing my disability. For years, I've been having to experience the healthcare system here in America. And a lot of times it just feels like I'm being treated like a lab rat. So I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and some of the symptoms that I have from my condition include tics. So for a while, I would have phonic and motor tics that were involuntary. And these were very distressing to me and could be to other people as well. And it got to the point, it was so bad that I couldn't fulfill my duties as a Mason. It was disruptive to ritual. I couldn't go to meetings anymore. Prayer services, like I stopped going to interfaith prayer services because it was disruptive. I ended up shouting nonsensical things sometimes, involuntarily. And the treatment options, it just seemed like it was one pill after another, and that nothing really changed. Nothing was very effective at treating these tics. I started doing research on possible other treatments that might be more effective. So what I found out was something called TMS, which I believe stands for transcranium magnetic stimulation. So essentially what this is they have technology that's similar to an MRI device, but it's focused at sending the signal to a specific part of the brain. So what this allows a doctor to do is actually target the specific problem. One of the issues with medications is, it gets into the bloodstream, which means that medication is exposed to every cell in your body because every cell gets its nutrition through blood. So there could be all sorts of different side effects. I think the pharmaceutical industry and capitalism kind of really likes this idea of products for treatments that just go on forever, so that there's this just take your pills, whether they work or not, and smile and nod to your doctor, and we'll pretend it's okay. Lots of money to the pharmacist, to big farm industry. And I think a lot of people aren't really healed or cured by some of these medications. I know that for me, none of them were very effective at dealing with my primary symptoms. And basically, all I really got was to choose which side effects were the least harmful. But once I started researching this TMS, I found out a couple things. One, it would not be covered under insurance for me because of the way my diagnosis is set up. I had to get it privately funded. The IMOS, which is the Illinois Masonic Assistant Support Group, most Grand Lodges have some sort of setup to assist brothers if they have issues. Luckily
Right.
for me, the lodge looked at my issues. The board looked at this and said, yeah, this treatment, it needs to go forward. Otherwise, it would have been out of pocket, which would have been difficult for me to cover because currently it's difficult to find work when you're literally screaming things that might upset your boss. Which,
Right.
um, so the way the treatment works, for me, it was a little bit different because what insurance covers is TMS only for very specific diagnoses, which I didn't have. But the doctor was able to come up with a custom coil, and he designed a treatment protocol specifically for me to heal this issue with tics that I was having.
Mm-hmm.
So what they start out with doing is they first they need to figure out how strong of a pulse to figure out. So they put a coil, which is a device over the head that can use this magnetic system to stimulate. But instead of starting off going into various parts of, they start off with your motor control for testing it. So I don't know if anybody has ever seen Rick and Morty, the Pickle Rick episode, where Rick pokes at the brain of a bug and makes it move when he's looking for trying to create a body for himself. The reason why
Right.
I bring up that example is it's kind of they start off and they can make a finger and they tell you which finger it's going to be. It's like we're going to hit your brain with this signal and it's going to make this finger here twitch a little. And that's how they find out what the right setting is. They start off real low, real gentle until they figure out how much it is to get your finger to twitch. And then what they do is they lower it so that aiming at the same spot, it only goes off about 50% of the time. And that's considered the ideal treatment range. And then instead of aiming for the thing that will set off your finger, then they readjust it to the part of the brain that they think will help you with your current issues. Now, the possible research on what this stuff can do, it's really impressive. To me, the way I like to explain it is if you've ever had a computer that has a bunch of error messages that keep popping up and creating problems, sometimes if it's rebooted and reset, the computer will still work. In a way, this seems to be what TMS does. Is it's sort of like it gives you a reset. So within um, 10 minutes of the treatment. So for me, what they did is there's various parts of the brain, such as areas that are associated with OCD or depression. But for me,
Mm-hmm.
since my primary symptom had to do with tics, they wanted to aim for to increase my control of it. And within waiting in the waiting room, I was still in this problem where I was having tics multiple times a minute. So one can imagine how disruptive that was. But after I got the treatment, within um, my treatment sessions with the protocol that they had worked out, would have only been about 45 minutes. And we ended up doing 20 of those sessions. But the primary benefit was within the first 5 minutes, there was already a huge drop in my tics. And while I still have them occasionally, they're much less disruptive to my life. And now, the one unfortunate thing is we don't know how long the treatment will last in effectiveness. And of course, my insurance doesn't actually cover this. So I have to be a little bit careful because if I want to go back for more treatment, it's not covered. But it was
Mm-hmm.
hugely effective. Dr. Rao and Mindful TMS with NeuroCare. They've really created something that if people have a Tourette or tic-based disorder, it is so life-changing, and my sense of well-being, um, not having these tics go off, it takes, it's a huge difference in my life. So I want to thank Dr. Rao, Mindful TMS, and also the brothers in the Grand Lodge of Illinois and the IMOS board who helped me get this treatment, because it puts me from being needing help to go shopping to being able to remake my life and build it back to what it ought to have been. I feel like the medical complex has really lobbied to limit how insurance covers this. So it's very limited. They won't cover it for people with Tourette's disorder. They'll cover TMS only for people with depression or OCD, and only if those people have been given 4 different attempts at medication that have failed. So, in order to get this treatment covered by insurance, you have to have essentially been a lab rat for 4 different medications. Now, all of these medications have a huge list of side effects. The side effects of TMS is, you might lose weight because you're gonna have so much reduced urgency and desire that you might not eat as much. Like to me, the side effects were I slept a little bit more, I ate a little bit less, and maybe I had 5 to 10 minutes of headaches. Just extremely minor side effects. Nothing that when I consider that some of the side effects from some of the medications that I was, that they just cycle you through, some of them included loss of like I was hospitalized once with paralysis, unable to speak, unable to lift a finger, which was just a side effect of one of the medications that they gave. I feel like there's a huge amount of profit that the pharmaceutical industry has put in this, where in order to get a real treatment that basically cures people of symptoms in one treatment for months, if not years, you've got to try their product at least 4 times. This seems to be a pattern of the pharmaceutical industry um, really using the benefits of insurance for self-enrichment. Like there's something very capitalist about getting a pill that they know isn't going to cure you. It's not going to give you anything more than a day of relief, and you have to go in that direction instead of I don't know, TMS treatment, in my opinion, is potential. The potential here um, is not just for tic disorder, attention deficit disorder, any number of addiction, control issues. There's a lot of things that this has the potential to assist with, because it just sort of um I don't know, it's like years of stress just melted away from one treatment.
That's amazing, brother. Because even with my father, he has Parkinson's, and I know what you deal with in terms of the side effects with the different medications, and it does take a toll on one's being mentally and physically. And I'm so happy to hear that you have found alternate healing outside of that medical industrial complex, and how just that one treatment brought so much peace to your life, and how you were supported by the brothers from the Grand Lodge of Illinois, and how everything just fell in place for you naturally with the years of suffering has now brought you this much peace. And those even suffering from the ticks, and those that are suffering from other things, I think they should look into these alternate healing methods, like you have pointed out. And yeah, that's absolutely amazing, brother. What else? How else has it benefited your life in comparison to being on pills?
Well, I'm I mean, I have a caregiver. I'm for a while I was basically a prisoner in my house. It was so dangerous that I was afraid. Um, every time that I had an interaction with law enforcement, every time that I tried to be an activist and stand up, uh, there was always the problems that can happen where if you have a symptom and you're an activist, you're basically asking to be thrown into a psych ward with the mental health industry. So one of the things that was problematic for me is I like standing up for people who are abused, who have problems. We've had a couple of issues where activism was required, but I had to downplay a lot of that over the last 2 years because my symptoms were getting worse and I didn't want to be harassed. After this treatment came, um, I'm eager to get back into that. So, one of the issues right now that we're worried about locally is Chicago is setting up a curfew for its parks. It's really targeting young people, and a lot of people believe this is going to have most of its effect on minorities. That
That's right.
basically, if you're rich and white, or you look like a tourist, we don't think the police are going to be as focused as getting you out of the park than, say, if you look like you're urban, black, or minority. We think so. We're going to try and document this stuff, and I'm going to go with some of my friends this weekend and find out how this curfew is being enforced on the youth locally. This would have been very difficult for me to do to protect local youth like this if
Right.
I was having the disorder. Like, it's the difference of me being able to help and serve disadvantaged people rather than just being dependent on social services. Um, so to me, I'm going to be able to make a difference. I'm going to be able to make sure that things are functioning the way they should function in my community. The way this sometimes works is that um, because insurance gives payments to treatment centers, that you can essentially get locked up in a psych ward and just forgotten about because they can just continue billing your insurance.
Hmm.
This has a chilling effect on people. Abuse in psych wards can be very, very bad. And we're also finding evidence that basically drug treatment centers, some of them are essentially fraudulent, and they look for people who don't want to treat their drug abuse. But if they get in treatment, the treatment center can get money for each urine test,
Right.
and they actually will help people continue to stay on drugs so that the tests keep coming back saying they need more treatment. There have been actual some really abusive cases that involve essential um, people being sexually trafficked from treatment centers. So the system has a lot of abuse in it, and it almost seems like the capitalist system um, is turning a blind eye to the abuse. It's more important for the money to flow than for the people to actually get cures that change their situation. Something like this that can change somebody so that they're less dependent on medication, so that they're less dependent on benefits and more independent. that doesn't help the system the same way. The system seems to have, like, when the FDA actually decides to approve TMS for more conditions, I think a lot of people will benefit. And this is particularly huge for people with Tourette's or other tic disorders. Like, I know the incredible discrimination that is against people with tics and Tourette's. Some people don't even want to believe in it. They want to imagine that people can control it, because the idea that somebody can't control their words is problematic for their ideology, because they want to hold people accountable. And to the people who have these tic disorders, it's like there's nothing like voluntary about it. Like, I've had tics in some of the most awkward, uncomfortable. Like, if there was one situation I wouldn't want to have it, it would have been the ones where sometimes it went off, and that happened. It's happened many, many times. So, I mean, I'm happy that I'm one of the that I was able to figure out that this was the treatment I needed. I was able to find a doctor who was able to modify the treatment program for my specific issue. I was able to find brothers who were able to assist me in getting this treatment. For me, it worked out perfectly, and I really want to hope to help bring that that progress to others as well, because the less money wasted on pills that have lots of side effects that don't actually fix people's problems, compared to, I mean, anybody who spoke to me before and had heard my tics, sometimes the way it would go off is, it seemed to be like I'd get a random string of words, as if my mind had compartmentalized the things I didn't want to say. So basically, here's an example. There was one time a friend of mine was taking me out to dinner. We had gone to the zoo. By the way, I've recently gone to the zoo and seen Benny and Charlotte. They were doing good.
That's good.
They got fed eggs. It was really funny because they toss these eggs to the otters, and Benny eats his egg right away. But Charlotte plays with her egg like it's a rock, because you know how otters like to juggle. So she'll just juggle her egg. But Benny will eat his egg, and then he'll try and get Charlotte's egg. But she will wait until he's after her egg before before she'll eat it. So I said that Benny was a little bit of a weasel who could swim, because he was trying to go after her egg, but they both had it. Anyway, I digress. So I was eating dinner with these friends after we'd been to the zoo, and they had taken my friend's boyfriend or fiance has a daughter. And so when I thought, okay, I'm eating with this young lady, I thought in my mind, okay, kids are finicky eaters, so you don't say anything negative about food. So the moment that thought went into my head, a few seconds later comes out, I hate potatoes. So the very thing of my mind not wanting to say something would trigger these tics to say what I didn't want to say. So this turned out sometimes, like, if I thought about, okay, this is something that might offend this group of people, there was a chance that I might say that very statement. So it was sometimes very awkward and unfortunate. So, like, I didn't want to say anything that would get a kid to be finicky at dinner. And outcomes, I hate potatoes, just sort of randomly. I had that tic about hating potatoes for like a year and a half after that event. It just kept coming out. But
You know that, my brother, that is amazing because your journey is an example that no matter what difficulties or circumstances or trials and tribulations one might find themselves in, you always must not lose your faith. And all moments and weaknesses and strengths, ups and downs of life, they come in waves. And you are a pillar. You are an example of the Masonic brothers that I know, who always kept the faith, who always overcame the odds and the challenges and the trials and tribulations. So you are the true exemplar, my brother, of the Freemason who keeps faith and always trusts the higher power and just tries his best, tries to fight for justice, tries to do the activism to make sure people are being treated properly. So my hat's off to you, brother Stephen. And I'm so happy to hear that you have been able to find healing and happiness in your life. Now, what do you recommend? I know in Illinois they have this. This form of healing, is it accessible in all 50 states? And if so, how can Brother Masons advocate this to their Grand Lodges or to their let's say the Shriners hospitals or whichever way that this treatment can be offered to brothers for those that really need it?
well, currently it's approved by the FDA, but only for very specific diagnoses, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the problem. The treatment is expanding a lot in America. So there was actually two different places operating in Hinsdale right next to each other that offer it. And more of our community health here in Illinois is getting interested in this treatment. Um, but it's probably not in all 50 states yet. One of the issues is it is a little bit expensive for the coils. So there is hardware here that does cost money, has to be very precise. I mean, it's sending a signal into somebody's brain. So it's got to be done correctly.
Understood.
But currently, um, there's a lot of potential for it being used off-label to do other things as well, which is what happened in my case. We didn't have to worry about going through that 4 medication thing for my specific diagnosis, because when the lodge covered this through the IMOS program for the off-label use, it it meant that we could just go through it. Currently, the FDA has to approve this for Tourette's in order for Medicare and other insurances to cover it. Until that happens, it's going to be brutal expense-wise on people. But getting this program so that one of the things that we are doing here is getting we have sort of a community support health system in Illinois, and I took my caseworker from the community support with me for my treatment, and he was astounded because he's seen me for years, and he's seen these symptoms affect my life. And after he saw the change from the first treatment, he's going to the board of the community support groups or the community support health system, and if it's incorporated through them, that's the real trick to getting it to people who are poor and disadvantaged, because that's where a lot of the services go through for people who have trouble getting their insurance. So a lot of states sort of have a similar community support health system, and once these are more integrated with those that will help marginalized people get assistance. The other hope is there's still being research on this, but so this wasn't why I had it. I had it for this Tourette's issue. But it's likely that a similar treatment will work for substance abuse and other health issues. So that's something else that could be covered with health insurance in the current system. A little bit more research has to be done, but hopefully we can find people who are willing to experiment and try. My results were extremely positive, where the day of my first treatment, I went home with greatly reduced tics, whereas I was in the waiting room ticking, and I didn't have a tick the entire trip home. And the next day, when I went in, I don't think I had an entire tick for the entire treatment or the way back. And afterward, I was able to go to a Masonic annual meeting, something that I was just going to, you know, I was going to not attend just because I didn't want to disrupt it. But this year now, I'm shortly going to be installed as the marshal. So I'm looking forward to that.
Congratulations, brother. Yeah, you have a great and successful term in office.
And I'm probably going to also get a chair from the council and the chapter. We'll see. It's up to them. But I'm certainly going to if I went from being, my symptoms got really bad when I was serving as the high priest of the cryptic counts. I'm sorry, the high priest of the Royal Arch chapter here in West Suburban. And the effects were sudden enough that it just totally made it so that I couldn't run a meeting. The only thing I really succeeded in doing my year was getting the rent paid, just because, I didn't know how bad it was going to get, and it got very, very disruptive, where almost I could have 2 to 3 ticks in 1 minute. And you can imagine how, it just makes it so that nothing gets done. So this is something that
Yeah, that's amazing, brother Stephen, with everything that you've been through and where you are now in terms of your healing and how it has improved your life. Where now, not only are you getting involved in your activism, you're taking an active role again in the fraternity. So it shows you how this treatment has really uplifted you and really brought you to that peak performance that you should always be at. And I think that's amazing that the brothers came through for you. They were able to take a chance and help you with finding alternate healing. And that is amazing. That this is we're gonna head into the future, I believe, going into alternate healing. So what are your thoughts on that, my brother? As time goes on and the newer generations who are more how do you say woke and educated on certain matters, how will they change the system that's designed to basically capitalize off of you and build the system where people are actually being helped and healed like you have?
Well, this is a difficult question. Let me think on that. There's a lot to that in this path forward, getting this to help other people's lives. I think one of the big things is not just settling for what we're given, and it's looking for more and looking for what's really needed. So what I mean by that is it's really easy to get this superficial care that doesn't really help. I feel like everybody can just go in to the emergency room and get a Band-Aid and not necessarily have a doctor really look at what's wrong with them sometimes. I've heard locally sometimes of people going in with broken bones and the doctor doesn't fully look at it and doesn't notice the bone is broken.
Yeah, that's right. That's happened here too, my brother. And I'm here in the Pennsylvania area, and the emergency rooms here are notorious where sometimes it could take hours and hours until you actually have an actual doctor that sees you. And normally, if most of the time people always complain they didn't do anything for me, they just refer you to somebody else and give you the bare minimum care.
I think that real healing is sometimes not as profitable as this sort of continuous treatment. So it's something to keep an eye out, is treatment that's not helping.
Right.
A lot of times people, when it's not really a psychological issue when it comes to neurology, but a lot of people associate the two together. So like they'll just sort of say, well, take your pills, do what your doctor says. And this is really, sometimes the doctor and the pills is not solving the issue. So that it's more of a dismissal than a support. And being sort of dismissed and ignored as opposed to receiving, it'd be one thing if somebody, can't help you. They just sort of admit they can't help you. I feel like the system a lot of times is looking for money so that it can at least say it did something. It at least wants to give you a test or a check, similar to how these fake treatment centers make money just doing urine tests without really providing any treatment sometimes. That there. So more research on this needs to be done. For me, and this has a certain Masonic aspect that makes me happy, is that this actually contributed to the body of knowledge. Me going through this and finding this out, that this is a viable, almost cure treatment for tic disorders and Tourette's. So there needs to be serious research and people who are looking to find things that actually can heal, because I think it's a great mission to actually, I feel very satisfied knowing that my faith led me to look for this cure, and that this knowledge can now be used to help others. Hopefully, it can be expanded so that the FDA and Medicare will be able to actually help this for other disabled people. So they won't have to have a vote, have a board meeting vote on whether or not it's going to do that. I'm glad that my brothers voted for this, but I have to admit it was kind of humiliating to ask. But I'm really glad that I went to the lodge to do this, because I feel like now that we know that this is a treatment for this, we've added to there's something about adding to the knowledge of humanity for helping others that we were able to accomplish. So that's like a spiritual good. It's part of the purpose of the lodge and the temple, to add to knowledge that serves the whole of humanity. And in one small way, I went from being a disabled person to being somebody who took a chance and advanced our knowledge on healing. With the lodge's help and Dr. Rao's help, they were able to develop something, create the custom coil specifically to make it so that these ticks, I haven't had a tick in this entire conversation. I don't know how long we've been talking, but for the last 2 years, I haven't been able to go this long without having some sort of involuntary statement jump out, and it often would have been offensive and insulting. Um, like I'm typically a rather polite individual, but like the tics would be deliberate anti-polite statements. It's really bizarre to I could give another example of one of the ones that went off, how it was for me. So there was this one of my old caregivers. She was an African American lady, and she was a very faithful lady. This woman very obviously had a deep love of God, and she cared about the prophet Jesus. So I was noticing some of the times when she was talking, and it almost I wasn't sure what her religion was, and it occurred to me that she may be what I sometimes call as a crypto Muslim or a hidden Muslim, somebody who doesn't want to admit that they're not Christian here in America because of fear of backlash. The moment I thought that, and it was in part because her name was Alicia, and I've known some people who have slightly modified the names of certain figures from history to make it so that they sound more American. And the moment I thought that, I had this antagonistic statement. And my specific thought in my mind was I wanted to be nice and sensitive in case this woman was but instead I had sort of a insulting statement towards one of the supposedly rightfully guided caliphs, which would have been disruptive and divisive, not the kind of thing that would be good for the community. And it was just an example of it's the exact kind of thing I wouldn't want to say. I don't want to go up to Palestinians and disagree with their views about various caliphs historically. I want to have solidarity and unity with them to help them with colonialism. And the last thing I need is to be fighting over doctrinal issues with people who are minorities and refugees. Like, that's not helpful. Like, if somebody is afraid to be themselves here in America, that's somebody I want to help so that they can be themselves. And instead, my condition was disruptive to that. Luckily, this woman was not actually. She was from I forget what Christian group it was. So she didn't even know who the figures of the supposed rightfully guided caliphs were. So she wasn't bothered by this, but it's just an example of this how it would. Whatever I didn't want to say would get said, and how disruptive that was for anything I would want to do. And now I rarely have tics, and I am more able to take care of myself, build my own life, and help others. I can be happy that I've added to the knowledge of humanity on a specific thing that allows it to help and serve the most vulnerable among us. And the lodge itself can also take a little bit of, I think the members of the lodge here in Illinois can pat themselves on the back that they did a good thing. You know, that this, in my opinion, obviously, since the money was spent on me, I would be inclined to say that it was money well spent. But the thing is that the knowledge here goes way beyond just my needs. It's going to help other people who suffer, other people who have these problems, and hopefully more people who are disabled are able to work through their disabilities and have more of a normal life. And I really am grateful to Mindful TMS, Dr. Rao, and the Grand Lodge of Illinois for all of the assistance. And it is to me, it seems like this is something that people needs this, but there are some people in the pharmaceutical industry who don't really benefit from this, and that's why we see these restrictions that make it harder to get this treatment than it ought to be. So right now, I know that people are noticing that, it's actually FDA restrictions that are making it harder to get formula, because, formula can be produced in other countries, but up until recently, Americans couldn't buy that formula.
Right.
So the rule, one of the things, though, is that the FDA does respond sometimes to this pressure, but we need to get people who have politicians who listen to them. And this may vary on your district and where you live. But everybody has disabled people. There are disabled people in all 50 states. And even if there are not disabled, there are people, who aren't thriving, that have symptoms and disorders where they could benefit. And when it gets, once the system looks at this, they can get this healing out to more and more people, and more people can get treatment and cures that do not cause constant side effects. And I am sure there are other alternative healing things that are kind of hidden in part, maybe capitalism like this, where somebody's not making as much money on a product that they can sell you if you're getting cured right away. I hope that's not the big issue. I hope sometimes it's just that people don't know. But part of me does suspect that there's a profit motive that's getting in the way of these cures and real healing. And that's why we need to focus on what the alternative treatments are that may make a difference and help people.
That's absolutely right, my brother, and I thank you for sharing your testimony because you're absolutely right. Not only does it benefit the healing and research, but it also expands that vision of Freemasonry, that it's there to uplift the fallen state of mankind, to teach humanity, to guide humanity, to be the lovers of arts and science, go out there and do things, try to be the best that you can be, and help others in that process as well. So, much commendable salutations and just positivity towards the Grand Lodge of Illinois for what they did and to expand this research because this is basically also a testimonial for someone that has been a disabled person who has suffered from this disease and how this healing has brought peace to your life. And I believe, my brother, even with the capitalist system we're facing right now, as time goes on, everything is a work in progress. And as the newer generations take over,
Amen.
and the generations over after them, the generation after them, and so on and so on, we will start going towards this change where alternate educational methods will come out, alternate medicinal methods will come out. These young men and women who are out there doing the activism that they're doing, eventually they'll become the leaders of tomorrow. They'll be in those positions and they'll be able to advocate for that change like how we can do that ourselves now by reaching out to our local senators and congressmen and asking them, do you have this healing method? Does it serve our state? Does it serve our district? And what can we do to bring this here? And you just like do the small steps here and there, and then eventually you do make that temple, you do create a ripple effect, and that's all that matters. And I was speaking to another brother the other day, and we were thinking that we won't be able to solve all the problems in the world, brother Stephen, but at the end of the day, as long as you're doing the work, that's all that matters. Because individually, all of us, if we all put in our own efforts, then collectively, that makes a difference in the grand scheme of things. And I'm so honored, my brother, that I was able to hear your testimony, and not only myself, but all others who are going to listen to this and take benefit and hope from the wisdom you have imparted. Now, the next question I have is the healing service that you went through, do they have a website or is there any information out there about them?
I went through Mindful TMS, and They are online here in Illinois. I think I can send you the link to them. And this is where Dr. Rao, who actually developed the specific treatment for me and my Tourette's, works. So, this is an off-label treatment, so there's still more to know. But right now, the results are extremely promising. And let me see if I can find that link, and I will give it to you so that you can set it up in the video description.
Yeah, please. I would love to do that so people know about mindful TMS, and as time goes on, more of these basically testimonials and these informations come out about how you can find alternate healing without destroying yourself with these medications that have so many bad side effects. And I know exactly what it is as I see, even with my father who suffers from Parkinson's, to see what some of these medicines do to your body, mentally and physically. So this is great, my brother, and even myself speaking with you, brother Stephen, from the last three parts compared to now, there's a big improvement in the way that you have been speaking throughout the course of this almost 1 hour that we've been speaking without any interruption of any kind. So this is absolutely beautiful, and may you continue to find peace and healing in your life, my brother.
Thank you so much. I just sent you the link.
All right, got it. Is there anything else, brother Stephen, that you would like to discuss regarding healing, alternate healing methods, or anything that I have failed to ask you?
I've got to throw one big thing out for the other aspect of healing for me has been love of animals. And in all of the dark times, when I've been of a prayerful attitude, I've received signs and help from nature. And for everybody who's suffering, to me, one of the biggest things that you can do to ease your pain and suffering and help get on what you need to be doing is to commune with creation and find an animal or a plant to take care of and nurture. And once that cycle starts, creation will start to nurture you as well. And I believe that people can find uh, comfort and healing when they're working for it and looking for that. And I just want everybody to have what's best for them. And I know that animals and plants and having a good relationship with that, um, there have been times where I've been suffering. It's been very dark to have this disability. It's been very isolating, and I'm so lucky to have had Brookfield Zoo nearby where I get to see my otters, Benny and Charlotte. I've had my cats. I've got my plant. I've got a shamrock named Sheikh, my aloe plant, and my cactus. And I really I feel that there is once one takes the step to be nurturing a creature, it opens up blessings in creation. So for
That's
everybody,
absolutely right.
um, it's not just a placebo. There's something real when you have a relationship with plants and animals. It helps bring healing and light into your life.
That's absolutely right, my brother. And even myself, going to the park in the mornings and spending time in nature, feeding the birds, I also realized that humanity has kind of lost this connection with the divinity that's always around us, whether it's the trees or it's the plants and the animals that you see. It's all creation and part of those eternal cosmos that I think we have detached from, where we don't have that healing in nature anymore in our lives, especially in the type of lifestyles that the modern world forces us into. And I'm so happy that you have given this hope to those that are suffering, to tell them that do not lose hope. There are ways that you can find peace and healing in your life. There are ways where you can reconnect with the high and divine again. There are ways where you can go out and just one small act of connecting with an animal or a bird or nature or the trees. Just start day by day, step by step. And as long as you're doing something, you're doing the work and you're moving in a positive direction, and then that's all that matters. And you are a testimony of that, my brother, whether it's with your plants and animals, with the squirrels that you have interacted with your otters, finding healing. Your life is a testimony that never lose hope. Ups and downs happen with everyone, but like even what our fraternity teaches and what our faith teaches, always trust God, and that's it. Just keep it moving. That's all you can do.
God willing. And it really it astounds me when I see the way the Lord works and what the progress, even with all of the difficulties that we see, that we're able to make. Small steps, local steps, often can make a difference. I'm constantly feeling, when I look at the world, like, how do I even adjust that? What can I do with, the famine in Yemen, the invasion in Ukraine? These things are larger than I can do anything about. But I find small steps locally, it seems like they spiritually echo sometimes. When you find a way to help someone small, it's often a lot bigger than we see. And I know the help that I received, I think that will echo as well, that this knowledge will be used to help other people. And hopefully when this message gets out, more people who maybe are just living with this disorder and have given up on healing. They've just thought the only thing that is there is just to, toughen up and live with it. They realize that they don't have to necessarily endure this suffering anymore, and that they can have a better life. And I'm really grateful also to the technician and the people who work to bring this into reality. It's a great thing to see people able to return to function and to be able to do more than they were able to do yesterday.
That's it, my brother, and that's all that matters. And just we just must keep the faith, because right now we are living in trying times, and a lot of families are suffering mentally, emotionally. People are dealing with inflation issues. Those that are barely making ends meet. You have so many families in America that are one paycheck away from being in a bad situation, and you have given hope in this talk that right now everyone's going through something their own way. Everyone's fighting their own small battles. But if we keep that, if we keep those things in mind, that small acts here and there, whatever's in our capability to deal with, we can deal with it, then that makes the difference. And I'm in the same boat as you, my brother. I wish I could end world hunger, end wars, and the suffering in Yemen, Syria, Ukraine, and all these places. But we can only just try the best of our capabilities with our own individual efforts. And again, it all comes back to, if everyone is doing the work individually, and in the grand scheme of things, that does make a big ripple effect. And I'm so happy to see that not only you will be active in the fraternity, but also you'll be active in your other roles of activism as well. The spirit that's there to serve humanity and serve the greater good. And it's because of your love for all living beings, mankind, plants, animals, who are blessed by higher and divine. And that's absolutely true, that if you are an individual who carries that love and light within them, self and others and other beings, then it's all reciprocated back to you. And what you have experienced recently, that was all given back to you. You will continue to get it back because of the type of being that you are, my brother, and the type of heart that you possess. And again, it's an honor for me to speak to
I feel like the honor is mine, but I do not mean to disagree with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Brother Stephen, and until next time, Nur alaikum.
More like 'em.